Hey there, it's Leslie at Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and today I'm making disco ball baby rattles. And I want to talk about more than just making the disco balls. I also want to talk about the silver metallic royal icing mix that I used. But to get started, I just traced something that was round onto my cookie so I would have a guide for where the disco ball would go. And then I was hoping to save a lot of time by not having to paint my disco ball a metallic color later by using the metallic royal icing mix from the Evil Cake Genius. And I have to say that this icing was truly a silver metallic. It was actually really sparkly and bright and pretty neat when it dried. But the consistency is a little bit different. I don't know if looser is the right word to say, or stickier, or I'm not exactly sure how to describe the consistency, but it was slightly different. It took a really, really, really long time to dry, like days to dry, instead of just, 6 or 7 or 8 hours. It took days. It did eventually dry. The taste wasn't bad. I had read some reviews after I had bought it and put it on all of these cookies and was wondering why it wasn't drying. Then I started doing research, but a lot of people said that they didn't like the taste, that it was too sweet, but I didn't find the taste to be bad. It wasn't hard to bite into or overly soft, and I was able to put them in bags eventually and bag them up. But again, it took days to fully dry. And it also didn't get as puffy as regular royal icing does. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this icing. If you have days to let it dry, it does save you from having to paint and getting paintbrush lines when you try to paint areas with a metallic color. But it took forever and ever and ever to dry. And then I did mix up another small batch that was stiffer with less water added to the batch so that I could make these lines. And I'm using my projector to trace the lines, and I'm going to do the one side and then flip the cookie over the other direction to do the other side so that my hand does not get in the way when I'm using the projector. So I guess the question is, would I use this icing again? And my answer is yes, I would use it again for small things, maybe lettering or royal icing transfers or lines like I just did for the disco ball. But I don't think I would use it again for large areas like this disco ball, again, just because it took days and days for it to fully dry. Um, and it also, I didn't say this before, but the mix also is a super fine powder. So when you get it out of the bag and you measure it out, it creates a dust cloud in your kitchen that leaves little sparkles all over that take a little while to get cleaned up. So after I was done piping all of the lines, I immediately went back and filled in a couple of the squares with the disco ball. And I should have waited to do that because, again, this icing took forever to dry and it kind of blended together like a wet on wet effect rather than staying separate. And I don't think the underneath icing was completely dry yet either. But it worked out. It came out okay. And once it did dry, I went ahead and added the handle for the baby rattle. And I did a variety of colors here to match an invitation for a baby shower. So I just kind of outlined an area that followed the curve of the cookie, and then I flooded that in. And I'm going to try to overfill it so it doesn't crater, and then really work with it with my Scribe to make sure that the icing gets all the way down to the cookie and isn't sitting up on top so that it won't sink later as it starts to dry. I think a lot of times craters happen in small areas because the icing isn't actually touching all the way down to the cookie, but is rather kind of sitting on top. And then as it dries and sinks down, it creates the crater. So I'm going to jiggle the icing with my Scribe until I feel like it has fully settled in and is touching the cookie at all surfaces. And I actually ended up making these cookies for a girlfriend. She didn't want any bows on them, but I think they were cute with the bows. So I had some royal icing transfer bows that I added. What do you think? Anyway, check out the videos for all of the cookies in this set, and I guess this was more of a review than a tutorial, but I hope you liked it, and if so, please hit the subscribe and like button, and I'll see you next time. I have new cookie tutorials every single day. See you later.